Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after, I guess, what you could describe as a historic game between the Winnipeg Jets and the Washington Capitals as Alexander Ovechkin scores those 2 goals. Again, I was supposed to be in Washington covering this. Travel blew that up. My flights were canceled out of Toronto. It was interesting because I was there last week to cover the potential for that to happen. It never happened. I never thought it would last until this game. I know there's a lot of people going to be in the chat room. I know there's going to be a lot of people, in Jetsland on Twitter, whatever, who are like, of course it happens against the Winnipeg Jets. I'm not sure I saw it coming, but then after he scored that first goal, and especially after Stenlund scored and made that a 2-goal game, you knew he was going to get his crack at it and had almost scored right before that, putting it off the outside of the post and in. So we're going to be talking about that. Ken and I were just talking about this before we came on. I know there's some people who come rolling into the chat room and get really upset when we talk about other teams. It's the NHL. We need to talk about what's happening around the league. If this Washington Capitals team ends up being a team that the Winnipeg Jets play in the Stanley Cup final, we will have not done our duty by talking about this team and what allowed them to win the 2 games that they played against the Winnipeg Jets this year. And so we are going to talk about that. We are going to break down into a little bit what Washington did well. And I believe something that has allowed teams to look at the Winnipeg Jets differently since the first time the Washington Capitals played them. But I want to go down this road because there's one thing to me about this game that I think really stands out above everything else, and that is that people need to drop the excuses. And I see this from T. Willa here. T. Willa says it was back-to-back after the Bruins. No excuses, just facts. No, this is an excuse. And I'm hearing the excuses, and I'm seeing them. And so let's start with travel right off the bat. Everyone's saying, oh, the Winnipeg Jets played last night. They played back-to-back. They had to travel into Washington. Well, the Winnipeg Jets did that, but so too did the Washington Capitals, who had a longer flight. And if you are, I don't know what happened with travel yesterday. I don't know certainly that the Winnipeg Jets got directly in, but the Winnipeg Jets have the option of choosing their hotel and getting their team in based on cutting the travel time as much as they can, whereas the Washington Capitals have to come home and then they all have to make their way to their homes. Now, I'm not saying that it's a better situation, but it probably is. The Jets probably had, no doubt, did they have the better travel situation yesterday after playing back-to-back. So take that excuse and throw it out the window. Now people are talking about the schedule, and they're talking about how this is such a grind of a schedule for the Winnipeg Jets, and it is. It's right to talk about it, but it's not right to talk about it like the Winnipeg Jets are the only team in the NHL who are facing a grind of a schedule as you head towards Christmas here. Now, in the last week, they've played one more game than the Washington Capitals. Now, that's not insignificant. That definitely takes its toll, but we're not talking that the Washington Capitals have been sitting on their backs with their feet kicked up, resting, waiting for the Winnipeg Jets to come into town here. These are 2 teams going for a grind of a schedule, and this is something that Jets fans definitely have to recognize. You want to talk facts? This is the fact. The Winnipeg Jets had a daisy of a schedule the way it was spread out heading into December, and what did they do? They made hay. The Winnipeg Jets had a phenomenal record at the end of November. They made hay while the sun is shining. The cost of having a daisy of a schedule that you can stack up a whole bunch of points against is that you got to pay the piper sometime down the road. And the Winnipeg Jets are no doubt paying the piper right now, but this is not something that the Washington Capitals are, again, sitting back and entirely rested. And then that brings us to our third excuse, is the injuries. And I know I was looking at this above. Jerry Brown comes in here and he says the whole December schedule has been a joke. No one's laughing. Sparky says, don't get me going. Just check the Jets injury list. Okay, let's go through the Jets injury list. Blake Wheeler is out. The Washington Capitals are without Nick Backstrom, a player who's played less games in his career than Blake Wheeler and has 100 more points. That's advantage to the Jets in that situation. Nick Ehlers is out. Well, so is TJ Oshie for that game, who Nick Ehlers has a little bit more points per game in his NHL career, but it's not an absolute wash to say these aren't similar players. Cole Perfetti is out. Tom Wilson is out. Tom Wilson at this stage of his career is far more of a game breaker than Cole Perfetti is. Nate Schmidt's out. Carl Hagelin is out. Mason Appleton's out. Connor Brown is out. John Carlson goes out for the third period there. Johansson goes out for the third period there. And there's a couple other throw-in players that are missing from the Washington Capitals as well. This is the one thing about this. No doubt injuries are playing a role in how the Winnipeg Jets are playing right now. I was saying to Ken earlier on, I thought from the Jets tonight, they didn't have a lot of time sustaining possession of the puck. And I can completely think that has everything to do with the loss of players like Mason Appleton and Saku Menelainen and Blake Wheeler. No doubt. But to suggest that this is something that the Winnipeg Jets are going through and every other team is coasting right now, again, we go back to teams that the Jets are competing with. The Colorado Avalanche spent a good chunk of the schedule so far with 5 of their top 6 players out. People are going through injuries. So this is what I got to say. Take those excuses and throw them out the window. It doesn't serve the Winnipeg Jets at all. And here's why it really doesn't serve the Winnipeg Jets. These games against the Washington Capitals are important games because the Washington Capitals, I thought, showed the blueprint of how you basically take the Jets' ferocious forecheck and kind of turn it against them. And you'll see the Washington Capitals fly the zone, and rather than trying to get it up the boards where the Jets are trying to cut everybody off and force them on the boards, they just have layers of guys stacked, not going up the ice, but across the ice, and they move the puck over and over and over. And once it gets over here, all the Jets are trying to cut off this other side of the ice. And then once you get the puck to the other side of the ice, it's a free walk out of the zone. It's important to not take these games and say, excuse. The Jets didn't have this. The Jets didn't have that, especially when the excuses don't add up when the other teams are going through the same thing. It's important because Peter Laviolette has put up a pretty good game plan. And if you ask me, teams have started playing the Winnipeg Jets a little bit differently since the first time they played the Washington Capitals. Teams are starting to figure out a little bit how to play this Jet system based on what Peter Laviolette's Washington Capitals have done here. And it's something the Jets, I think, need to respond to going down the stretch here. I didn't want to get too down into the X's and O's and stuff like that. I know that can get a little bit confusing sometimes. I know some people, it takes them a little bit longer to catch on to stuff than other people, if you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, it's time to find out what Kenny has to say about this whole thing. Let's bring in the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, before we get going here, we're all about safety here at Kenny and Renny. And T. Will says, so contact doesn't matter. Got it. Then we're just a better team than the Avalanche, so we must be cup favorites. Thank you, Renny. T. Will, please do not dislocate your shoulder stretching for that one. That's a tough one there. Kenny, how are you doing here tonight?
Oh, fantastic, my man. Thanks. Doing great. I don't think what you're saying is 100% accurate. Caps have a lot of players out also. Adam Lowry referenced it, but I think it is, the contextual element is important. But here's the problem. The Jets aren't getting any of those players back. So if they want to hang around, they're going to have to find a way to win. And that's what Lowry was saying. I think for me, it's more part of the reason than an excuse. Hey, but you're right. If we want to stack things up, people need to realize in terms of context, the Jets play 16 games in the month of December. The Capitals are playing 15. They've won 9 out of 10. So everybody's dealing with something. The Jets are dealing with a lot. That is a fact. But, the facts are, if they want to hang around and be a good team and stay in the race, they're going to need to win some of these games. That's part of the deal. So Sorry,
I'm
what?
sorry. Well, I just think
You're
it's
just
really,
laughing at this comment here.
well,
You
no,
should read it.
I no, sorry. Kenny's water bottle says my lamplighter goes to Kenny for going all of 2022 without being wrong one single time. I just think that one of the things I love about this show is the people who come at me. I truly do. It's what we want on this show. I absolutely love that kind of stuff. I just imagine people sitting at their computers when I come out and I do my opening diatribe, and people are like, this guy could not be more wrong. And then you come out and you agree with me, and I think they're at their computers and they're like, well said, Kenny. Well said.
Well, no. Hang on a second here.
I think it's a funny moment.
I'm just saying that I don't totally dismiss those folks. The problem is that a lot of teams are going through this. It's not a Jets problem.
Washington
It's a
Capitals
league-wide problem. Yes, which is
Yes.
why. But I think it's very obvious, Sean, and I don't want to hammer on this drum so early. But this is what I was talking about when I talked a month ago about the Jets. This is not 2020 vision. I said the Jets needed to improve their forward depth 4 times like this. And I think I know what you're saying, Sean, and I'm not trying to say you were wrong, but the days of Michael Asimont hanging around the top 6 are over. The Jets are not getting any complimentary offense from guys who are stepping up like they were earlier. Mark Scheifele looks to his left, he sees Carson Kuhlman, looks to his left and sees Morgan Barron. I mean, these guys are important contributors, but I don't see them as top 6 players over the long haul. They're a Band-Aid solution, and I think that this last stretch of games where the Jets have lost 5 of 8 only reinforced what I said last month. And I wasn't saying this with 2020 goggles here. I said this is an issue already in November. And I give the Jets all kinds of credit for their battle level. But their issue is that they're going to be missing some key contributors for the next stretch of time. And the Band-Aid solution is starting to wear a little bit thin here. Anyways, I don't want to be, like I said, I'm not trying to say, oh my God, I had this great thought a month ago, but
you did though. And Top Line Media says it here. 1 point to my man, Kenny, for wanting to make a trade before it's too late. By the way, I've got time for this argument because I was on the other side of this. And I'm not sure I foresaw, when I made that point, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I'm there yet. Like I talked about the Colorado Avalanche having an absolute explosion go off in their room. And I didn't see them running out and making a whole bunch of trades to get through. They're trying to make their way through, right? They're trying to get by, which I think is what we've seen from most of the injured teams. The Washington Capitals are another team that has had it just as bad, if not worse, than the Winnipeg Jets before this. And they've just been trying to limp through and trying to stay in the fight kind of thing here. So what you are suggesting, what Top Line Media is suggesting, and what I think the majority of our chat room has been suggesting, I do think that the majority of the chat room is on your side. Julie Sue said it earlier on your side about making a move. I'm just saying we look around the league at a lot of the teams that you just admittedly said are going through the same situation, and the Jets aren't running out and trying to trade and pick up players right now. So the Winnipeg Jets doing that would be outside the norm of what's happening in the league right now.
That is accurate 100%, Sean. But how many of those teams are in a situation where most of their top core players can become unrestricted free agents in 2 years? I mean, the urgency level is different with the Jets. We know this. Into the season, the Jets are going to have to make decisions on Pierre-Luc Dubois, possibly on Mark Scheifele, maybe even Connor Hellebuck this summer coming up. So to me, it's just a little bit more of an urgent situation. I'm not saying it's not urgent for the Caps. Alexander Ovechkin is 37 years old, so their window is limited as well. But right now, for me, it's a little bit more of an urgent situation for the Jets. And Sean, here's the thing. As great of a start as the Jets have had, by losing 5 of the last 8 games, the Minnesota Wild are 3 points behind the Jets with 1 game in hand. Oh, and guess what? They're rolling into town on Tuesday, and in the first meeting of the season, they absolutely devastated the Winnipeg Jets. So the Jets aren't going to have any people rushing out of the infirmary in time for Tuesday's game. And the Wild are going to be coming, like the D are going to be coming for Rick Bowness in this season. Well, the Wild are going to be coming for the Winnipeg Jets on Tuesday. And you can be sure that Marcus Foligno and Jordan Greenway and all of those physical players, they don't care the Jets are going to be missing 7 players. They're going to be trying to finish every single check that they can. So anyways, sorry, that's not much of a buffet trip. I think you covered most of it in terms of the Jets play today. Jets generated almost nothing, like virtually a handful of scoring chances in the hockey game. Adam Lowry had a great scoring chance, shorthanded. Neil Pionk made a nice pass right back to him, and Charlie Lindgren pushed across and made a great save. But at 5, Mark Scheifele had a couple nice chances from the slot. But for the most part, the Jets had very limited offensive zone time, and I think it's starting to become a bit of an issue. And like I said, everyone who stepped into the lineup for the Jets is playing hard, but I don't think that they don't have the horses right now to be running with the top guns. And I know full well the Jets were in a one-shot game with the Boston Bruins one night earlier, and they deserve ample credit for that. But the other part of that, Sean, the Jets were unable to put away the Bruins when they had a 2-0 lead. So that can't be ignored either. So to me, Jets didn't play well today. I mean, there's really no other way to put that. And there's the other thing too. I mean, we need Ryan Friesen here for the takes, because guess what? The Colorado Avalanche are also really rolling in their own right now.
I think the only one who was buying into that point.
No. That was mostly Jets. All I'm saying, Sean, is that we talk about this all the time. The margin for error in the National Hockey League is very slim, and just as as great as the Jets have done in terms of staying in the race, yesterday they went into the game first in the Western Conference. They're also not very far removed from being the second wildcard team, and there are still a lot of games left to be played. So again, I just think it's a very interesting time for a lot of teams, especially the Jets. They're still a very good hockey team, but right now, the elite hockey teams are playing at a little bit of a different pace and a different level. We knew this time was coming, Sean. What do we always say? Tension is coming for all teams. I think Jeremy Swayman, one of his post-game quotes that I saw on TV yesterday, they welcome adversity. The only way that you know if you can deal with adversity is to go through adversity. And right now the Jets are going through their first real batch. I know they've had injury adversity. I'm talking about losing 5 of 8. That hasn't happened this year, right? Mm-hmm. So this month alone, the Jets have lost consecutive games twice. It's only happened 3 times all year, which is a testament to their play and their game. But now it's happened twice in a couple of weeks. So how is the bounce back going to be coming out of the break? That's a big, big question. And you're right. What did the Caps do again today that they did the Sunday a couple weeks ago? They clogged up the neutral zone. The Jets had no speed. They had a very limited amount of success on the forecheck. So you're bang on. I mean, if we didn't think teams are smart, there's a lot of video going around, and if you're a team playing the Winnipeg Jets in the next 2 weeks' time, these are the templates that have been produced by the Washington Capitals. Now, not everybody plays a 1-3-1 system. Nobody is going to convert their style, but we do know that it's going to be something that other teams are going to be looking at, and the Jets are going to have to adapt because it's a copycat league, and if you can't adapt, then you get yourself into a little bit of trouble.
Okay, Rob Somerville says, Kenny and Renny, let's do a comparison/contrast between the players currently out of the Jets lineup versus those players missing from the Caps lineup.
We've already done that, Rob. Push rewind.
We did that already. We started the show with that. My argument would suggest with Nick Backstrom, TJ Oshie, Tom Wilson,
go over
Carl
that again.
Hagelin, Connor Brown, and John Carlson at the end of the third period. The more pivotal players out of the lineup come from the Washington Capitals lineup. Again, I go back to this, and this is a hill I will die on. If you are set to be making excuses in this game, you are missing the point that Ken just made and I made out of the gate. The Washington Capitals have played the Jets twice now and made their ferocious forecheck look like it had holes all over the place. And Ken just made the point. The Washington Capitals and the system that Peter Laviolette has been playing against Rick Bonus's Winnipeg Jets has been highly successful against the Winnipeg Jets. To Ken's point, that he just made, coaches are going to be taking a look at this and saying, aha, so that's what worked. Let's go to the Ottawa game. Let's go to the Vancouver game. Let's go to these teams and take a look and say, okay, this isn't working, right? This is what happens when you're a really good team. You wonder, for the most part, I know last year Colorado wasn't necessarily a good excuse. I just think Colorado was a force of nature last season once they got going. But for the most part, every really good team throughout a year will go through a stretch where things get a little tough. And I would contend it's one of two things. It's boredom, right? You just get so good that you kind of let things slide. Or B, what it is other teams start to figure you out and you have to find a way to reinvent yourself, right? The Jets are turning heads. They have eyes looking towards them around the league because they're one of the best teams in the NHL. So if you think that you're going to run into that team at some point and that your fate requires you to get past that team, then you better start figuring that team out. And the Washington Capitals, to my eyes, in 2 straight games, take the excuses and stuff them because I don't think they count here. The Washington Capitals have done a very good job of showing how to play this version of the Winnipeg Jets team. So what do you do from that? You learn from it. And Rick Bowness is a smart guy. If you take a look at what he did with the Dallas Stars and he took them to the Stanley Cup final, he did a phenomenal job of making in-series tweaks. It's not like he's got this one game plan and that's it, folks. He's going to figure this out. But if he sat back and made all the excuses everyone else is making, then that wouldn't be the proper thing to do as a coach. He's got to figure this thing out because, again, the Washington Capitals have figured something out and the game tape is there for everybody else to have a look at coming out of this. Ken, before we go too far, I want to do the TransCanada Lamplighter goal of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a unanimous selection, but I just can't ignore the historical element. To me, it's Alexander Ovechkin's second of the game. It's his empty netter. It is a historical moment. Number 802, putting him alone in second place in the all-time goal-scoring list. And the 801 was a better goal. I mean, it was one that, David Riddick, you could see by his reaction that he wanted back. But to me, Sean, I'm curious for your thoughts. I thought I'd hit Brendan Dillon's stick just based on 2 reactions. A, Riddick's reaction, and B, the way that Brendan Dillon looked skyward. It wasn't that it took a big difference, but I think that the fact that it hit his stick kind of turned it into a bit of a changeup. And when Riddick went down, it kind of opened up the 5-hole. He was expecting a harder shot, and because it hit the stick, it changed from a fastball into a changeup, and that left the pads open for the goal to go through. And you could tell by the reaction of both players, that's what I thought happened. Did you see it the same way?
Yeah, and here's something that the goaltenders, I think Tico Napoli is a goaltender. I don't know if he's here right now, but yeah, there he is. He may want to weigh in on this. I've always thought this, and from goaltenders that I've played with, if you get a shot that's redirected and it goes redirected upwards, I think as a goaltender, even if you're going down, it's easy to go down, but like get your, not easy, but it's easier to go down and get your body up. Whereas I think so I take a look at that shot and it was right along the ice. I don't think that shot looked like it was going to be coming up on David Riddick. And so what I think happens is you kind of like freeze yourself with your center of gravity. You kind of lift it up a little bit. And then when it goes straight down, it's really hard to change your momentum from going up and get down fast enough, right? Because you can fight gravity and push up, but gravity only brings you down so fast, right? And so I think in that situation, I agree with you 100%. I also agree with you 100% on your pick for the Lamplighter because, yes, I know it's an empty netter, and I know people were kicking up a fuss saying like, oh, I don't think that meant as much to him. I take a look at that play, and it's a no-look over-the-shoulder throw in behind the net with Josh Morrissey all over him. This isn't like, to be honest with you, Ken, I was a little surprised all of a sudden when the puck was on the way in the net. That's not an easy shot to get off in that situation. Yes, it's an empty net. Yes, it's not like, there's an element of that is him not having to work as hard as he typically would for a goal to get that. But as far as empty net goals go, I think that was a tough one. Josh Morrissey's a tough, staunch defender, and he had the board sealed off and was trying to get his body in the way there. That was a contested puck that he put in with a no look, again, over the shoulder kind of shot in there. I agree with you. That is a great goal for his 802nd. And how about that? We got to get into the whole conversation about whether it matters if you're the team that gets those goals scored against you. But great pick, Ken, for the Lamplighter of the game. And if you can't wait to get your hands on some Lamplighter, well, the best thing to do is give us your Lamplighter of the game. Just tell us what your goal of the game was, and you will automatically be entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale from our friends at Trans-Canada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for us to gift you one, well, why not head down to Trans-Canada Brewing Company, head down to their tap room. It's a gorgeous space, great food, lots of beers at 11290 Kenniston. Great stuff down there. I've been there 4 times this month alone. Listen, my grind of the schedule, Ken, is that I keep going to TCB over and over and over again. The Jets are going through a grind of their own. Renny is going through a grind of his own. Great stuff. And I should mention that our winner from last show's Lamplighter of the game is Sheldon Peters. Congratulations, Sheldon Peters. You are officially on the clock. You know what you've got to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds right over here. I need your full name, assuming it's Sheldon Peters, and I need an email, and to send me all that. You have officially won, and I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale from our friends at Trans-Canada Brewing Company. You've got until the 27th, a little bit of Christmas time here. Don't get too deep into the rum and eggnog. Make sure you get this done. Try and get it done tonight, but you've got before the next game before you have to send it along. Otherwise, it gets thrown back into the pool, and someone on the 27th is winning a 16-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. Okay, let's get to the Johnson Group. Do you mind if I take the Got You Covered play? I'm gonna need your help on it a little bit.
I don't mind. I do have one in my thoughts as well, but if
we'll both give it here. But who's the player who passes the puck to Ovi before the before he scores that
Dylan Strome?
Okay, Dylan Strome. Dylan Strome has got you covered play of the game because Ovi before that, and I love that this happened because I think we talked about this the first game that they played the Washington Capitals where Ovi passes up on a wide open net. To try and pass it for a tap
to Oshie
side of the net to Oshie, and it doesn't work. And I just think that that's really, those kind of plays are a sign of the maturity that he's had over the years. And what I love about it is he's become a more defensive player. He's become a more generous player to his teammates, and yet he's maintained his ability to score the whole time. I think that's great. And before that happens, he passes the puck off, right? Like he's got an opportunity. Everyone in that building is hanging on it and saying, shoot. And this is something, he knows what it's like to go dry because he's gone dry the last couple of games here. Here's his opportunity and he passes it away. Doesn't work out. And in that situation, Strome entirely force feeds the puck back to him in a situation where I thought, like, you put Ovi with his back to the net against the wall. He's in a tough spot there, but give Strome credit. He's like, listen, I know you passed it away. I know what you're trying to do. We respect you for it, but the crowd wants something here. And you know what, Ovi, you wanted to. Here you go. I got you covered. Here's your second shot or third shot or whatever it was at that open net. And he's got his 802nd goal because Strome had him covered on that play. What was your got you covered play of the game, sponsored by the Johnson Group?
Yeah, for me, it's the Jets setting up the handshake line and realizing the historical element of the affair. And I just want to read this quote. Both Josh Morrissey and Adam Lowry had a couple great quotes. Adam Lowry first. Obviously, you don't want it to be against your team, but he's kind of the generational goal scorer of my age. I remember growing up, it was him versus Sidney Crosby and how special it was to watch them play. When my dad was coaching with Calgary, got the opportunity, he was friends with Chris Clark, who was a former Flame, I think that would now then was playing with the Capitals, and I got to meet Ovechkin when I was in grade 7 or 8. That was pretty special. Just seeing him break the record, 801, 802. Obviously, it sucks losing, but he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's done so much to grow the game, and he's a generational goal scorer of our time. It's pretty cool to see. In terms, Jeff Hamilton asked him about the handshake element. It's just a sign of respect. He's done so much for this league. He's been a great ambassador. He's got a great personality, and it's just a sign of respect to really let him know we appreciate all he's done for the league, all he's done for us as players, the milestone. It's an incredible accomplishment. And just a quick one from Morrissey here too as well. It's unbelievable. You could use every word possible to describe the career he's had. It's crazy when I look back being a kid growing up and watching Sid and Ovi come into the league. I've been in the league 7 years, and I know how hard it is to score goals. When you see a guy put up numbers like that, just the magnitude. He passed Gordie Howe. Gordie Howe is a legend of the game. He's almost on potentially the Mount Rushmore of hockey, and Ovi just passed him. It's not great when it's a minus against, obviously, but I think all players appreciate what he's meant to the game and how the game has grown from his presence, his personality, and his ability on the ice. It's a moment that you're not happy about, but at the same time, you have to appreciate and show him the respect he deserves. It's pretty remarkable what he's done, to say the least. That's a huge understatement. It was the right thing to do. Now, everybody hates losing, Sean. We know this. Nobody's happy if you're a member of the Winnipeg Jets going into the break having lost 2 of those games. The Jets were on the receiving end of goal number 600 for Alex Ovechkin. They weren't thrilled about that either, but the fact that, 2 of the sharpest guys on the Winnipeg Jets were the guys talking and were able to come up with those kind of quotes in the aftermath of losing a disappointing and frustrating game for them, that's a stick tap to both of those players. And I love that they were able to think of the context of everything, not just, those guys, part of what Josh Morrissey and Adam Lowry are making, part of their salaries are grown because of what Alexander Ovechkin has done.
Great
and
point.
That was a stick tap from them to the great 8 for what he's done. And, I don't want to bring politics into this, and I don't want to get into that element at all. I understand some folks are unhappy, and hey, we live in a community where the Ukrainian population is highly prevalent. We feel for the folks of the Ukraine. Alexander Ovechkin did not declare war on their country. I understand there's a connection with Putin and everything else that people are unhappy about, and I understand that completely. But Ovechkin isn't the one that is, at the forefront of that conversation. Anyway, sorry, I didn't really want to go into that element of it. But Ovechkin has done a lot for the game, for the sport, and the fact that the Jets, the 2 of the smartest Jets, recognize that in a moment like this, I mean, it's an important statement from both of those players. And, if you're a hockey fan, I think that's a moment that, people will remember where they were. Where were you when? I mean, I think that's a moment where people are going to remember that it came against the Jets, and I'm certainly going to remember it for what it was.
You know what? I'll say this comment was made earlier on. Someone with a gentle reminder about the politics of Alexander Ovechkin talked about this last time. This is entirely fair game. And Hootman, sorry, too much politics, Kenny. I don't think you can ignore it in this situation. I think when you say it's too much politics, you may be a fan that's not interested in that. Other fans may be interested in it. Not one is more important than the other. I don't have a problem with people going in this direction. I don't have a problem with people calling out Alexander Ovechkin's support of Vladimir Putin. Dealing with Alexander Ovechkin, this is one of these things, right? And I think people are going through this, on the political spectrum everywhere right now. The 2 sides, right and left, are so divided that, I've said this before. To me, politics is the art of bringing out the worst in people, right? And I remember we've gone down and we've been in Tennessee and we've gone to games in Nashville and stuff like that. And I say this all the time. You talk to people, you meet people down there, the greatest people you'll meet in your life. And then as soon as someone brings up politics, their faces change. And then just suddenly there's just this anger and all this kind of stuff that goes to it. It's really hard to separate people in their politics. But this is crazy divided. It's a divided world right now. I don't have the answers, but what I do think is the answer isn't to just shut up and don't talk about it. I'm okay with people bringing this up because Alexander Ovechkin has gone out of his way to show public support for Vladimir Putin. He is entirely open to the criticism of him doing so. You shouldn't get to show public support and then be like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm not in politics. I'm a hockey player. Well, you stepped into that arena just the same as you stepped into the other arena. So anyone out there who has anything that they need to say, sorry, John Rio, who says Renny Sports Show, stay out of politics, please. John Rio, on your show, you can stay out of politics if you want. I'm okay to talk about it. I'm okay when other people talk about it. It's a complicated issue, and people are allowed to point out that it's complicated. And that's what I will say about it in this situation.
Sorry, I just have one last thing, Sean, and I understand a lot of people feel very strongly about it. Our point of view, we live in a free country. Alexander did not grow up in a free country. So I don't think it's as simple as him willingly supporting the man in power. That's my personal opinion. I don't have any, I don't have any foolproof facts on that. I'm just saying it's slightly more a complicated manner than some are portraying. And if some people don't believe that, that's okay. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that I don't know that we would have all the information. But again, if Alex wants to dispute that, I mean, I just think that it could be, dangerous for him to do so. It would be what I would say. But at the same time, like I said, I don't think it's a good idea for him to be doing it. But I don't think it's as simple as him just saying, I stand with him. But I mean, it's pretty clear that where we stand. We want the war to be over, Sean. Right? I mean, we stand with the Ukraine. I mean, in case folks are getting the wrong idea here.
Right. So just I'm going to say this again, and I also recognize when I'm talking about this kind of stuff that there's people who come here to get away from that kind of stuff. Someone made that point. I'm entirely okay with that. I hope you were able to grit your teeth through what we just talked about and get back to the hockey that we're talking about. Again, I don't have a problem with people bringing this up. These are important issues, and I think we're better off not hiding from it than we are hiding from it. Okay, I want to get into this question. I love this question. Give me a second here. What's more important, says Randall D, pulling goalie or stopping Ovi from making history? Ken, the floor is yours.
Oh, Jets are trying to win the hockey game. They can't worry about someone setting a record against them. They're trying to get back into a game where they generated very little. I don't think there's is there a source of, do you have to feel guilty about being on the receiving end of history? To me, no question about it. Jets pull the goalie, they try to win a hockey game, especially a team that hasn't really generated much the last couple of days, right? They've scored 3 goals in their last 2 games. So I have no problem whatsoever with the Jets pulling the net, and I don't think they do they feel any less guilty giving up 801 than 802? I mean, the goalie was in the net for that goal. I mean, to me, Rick Bowness is playing to win. That's my opinion, and I don't have, I have a strong opinion when it comes to that. Do you have a different opinion?
No, not at all. Like, to be honest, I'm kind of blown away by this. Like, I'm going to say this. Does anyone out there remember? So who's the last player that Alexander Ovechkin passed in the goal scoring? Was it Jágr? Does anyone remember who he surpassed Jágr against? The team, the goaltender? Like, this record is going to be meaningless at some point, one way or another.
At 895, it's going to be meaningless.
Because he's either going to pass Wayne Gretzky, and that's who everyone will remember. And I argue that no one remembers that. Like, does anyone remember who Barry Bonds hit his record-setting home run against, the pitcher-wise? I don't remember. Like, does anyone remember who Gretzky's last goal came against? Because that's the all-time record right now. I honestly think this is a ridiculous argument. Like, are people really... Like, if anyone thinks that the Winnipeg Jets are going home tonight and being like, my God, this is a stain on my entire career. Alexander Ovechkin got to be the second highest scoring player of all time. He scored 2 of his 802 goals against us and lined up like that. I can't get to sleep tonight. My Christmas is ruined. This isn't the way it works. Alexander Ovechkin was going to do that. Now, you never go into the game wanting to be the team that does that against, but nobody remembers these things. Like, outside, maybe you Winnipeg Jets fans will, right? Because I'll say this from covering it. You remember that Steve Stamkos got his 60th goal against the Winnipeg Jets. But does anyone remember who Austin Matthews had his 60th goal against last year? Like, these things to me are extremely inconsequential. So this is going to be inconsequential for one of 2 reasons. Either he's going to pass Gretzky and then it's going to be another team and a different goaltender that he did it against, or B, he's not going to pass Gretzky and no one remembers how you got into second place. This is inconsequential. And so this idea that I saw tonight, like someone was suggesting to me that it was a failure on top of a failure. You know what a failure would be your coach and say, despite the fact that I don't think we had our best game, a failure for me is to send the message to my players on the bench that you guys don't have a shot of winning this game, so I'm not even going to pull the goaltender here tonight. That would be a failure. Rick Bowness has gone out of his way this season in the way he's picked the guys who go in and out of the lineup and doing it the right way every time. The right way every time. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Hey, you want to know why Riddick was playing in net tonight? Because unlike in the old coaching regime where you would have your starting goaltender bargaining with your coach about the games he plays, you've got a coach now who says, this is the right way to do things, and there's no point in me putting you in on a back-to-back, and I've got confidence in Dave Riddick, so Dave Riddick is going in the net. That's how Rick Bowness coaches. He does the right thing every time. So what's the right thing to do? Well, he said it. He stated it. He wants the Winnipeg Jets fighting for first place in the Central Division. He wants them fighting for first place in the Western Conference. So the right thing to do to get back into a game is to pull your goaltender and try and get up there. If Alexander Ovechkin scores there, and I've said this and I sent it out in a tweet, I don't know how many people saw it. I think it's a greater failure of the pitchers down the stretch that refused to pitch to Barry Bonds out of fear of being the guy who gets a home run hit on them. I think it's a greater failure, the cowardice of the people who did not want to pitch to him, than it is the guy who had the courage to try and pitch to him and get him out and ended up being the guy he hit those home runs off of. I think it would be a far greater failure for the Winnipeg Jets, for the belief their coach would have in their players, and for the respect that they have for the game of hockey and the respect that they have for Alexander Ovechkin, to say, we're not going to pull the goaltender and we're just going to take a loss here tonight so that we don't become a footnote that no one's going to remember in the history of this game anyways. I can't believe the question is being asked. To me, if Rick Bowness wouldn't have done that, then we'd have something to talk about right here, because that to me would be a problem.
Yep, no doubt about that. No doubt.
Okay, I had before we go too far, I want you to give Sweet Lou his. Let's give Sweet Lou his.
No doubt. For those of you folks in the real estate market, if you're looking to buy, looking to sell, looking to see how much your place is worth, maybe looking to upgrade or downsize, you could reach our friend Lou Ferlin of Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. You could reach him at 204-791-9971 or at the office 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. And his website is www.louferlin.ca. Lou's a great realtor, a great human being, and a great supporter of the community that we live in. So we thank him for his support as always.
Want to hear another Lou tagline?
I'm not sure. It's Christmas time. You better make it a good one.
Lou do what Lou do. You want a house? He's so good he'll get you two. No?
Well, not a lot of people are on the market for two, but I mean, I appreciate the efforts.
You get it, right? You get it. He's so good, he'll get you two. I didn't need two houses.
Two options, maybe, right? He's going to get you at least two options. You
now
get to
you're
choose.
Now you're convoluting it.
I'm trying to help you. Just trying to help you.
Good, and then you beat it down.
No, you're sinking here. You're sinking. You're sinking the ship.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Okay, I wanted to bring this up because you'd said they're not getting the secondary scoring. I wanted to just put in a little bit of contention into that because it's the Grinders who got the goal here tonight. I know that you wanted the super line put in tonight.
And they were.
And they got thrown together for the third period. It made sense. So Kenny, just so you guys know, Kenny and I will text back and forth during the game, and I love it when Kenny, will throw something out there and that it ends up happening. He'd said at some point in the game, and I think we clearly saw that. And we should get into Scheifele's frustration. We should talk about that after this. But Scheifele was clearly looking frustrated, and Ken said it's time to put Scheifele with Dubois and Connor to get something going here. I thought that as long as it was a 1-goal game, that Rick Bowness was going to stay away from doing that, which makes sense to me. That when it became a 2-goal game, he came out in the third with that. I thought as long as they were within, that 1 goal, and we know this Jets team is an opportunistic team. I thought as long as they were within that 1 goal, he wouldn't, in case of emergency, break glass in that situation. But he did do that, and they weren't able to get that done. Do you have any issue down the stretch? And it's probably a ridiculous question, let's be honest, Ken, because we just came off of, Kyle Connor and Josh Morrissey being stars on this team, stacking together ridiculous point streaks. But do you have the sense maybe that the Jets stars just kind of ran out of gas down the stretch here?
I mean, it was a night they didn't have a whole lot going. I'm not sure they ran out of, I mean, Josh was out for almost 27 minutes again tonight. So, I mean, if he was out of gas, it was because of, he played a ton again. So, yeah, I mean, I just thought, like I said, I did not see any chemistry whatsoever with Carson Kuhlman and Morgan Barron. And I'm not blaming Barron or Kuhlman. I mean, Kuhlman was a guy who was on waivers. And guys are on waivers for a reason. That doesn't mean that they can't be contributors. And Carson Kuhlman was on the ice when the Jets' fourth line got a goal. So obviously he did something on that rush. I mean, it was a sharp angle shot by Axel Janssen-Fjällby, easy for me to say. And good job by Kevin Stenlund to get to the net. Like, he continues to make plays happen. But I don't think that Kevin Stenlund is the answer either in terms of moving up into the top six. These guys are good complementary checking line players. And I think that it was smart to put, Kyle Connor with Mark Scheifele and Pierre-Luc Dubois, because Scheifele did have a couple good chances on the power play. Didn't think they were getting a whole lot going in terms of the 5-on-5 play. And I also thought it was twofold. Like, Morgan Barron has been playing very well with Adam Lowry and Jansen Harkins. So, I mean, they used Asimont over there for a little while as well. But, yeah, I mean, I just thought it was, I would have actually gone to it earlier, personally, but again, that's easy to say. And I'm not just saying that because they didn't do it earlier. I mean, I told you before I was on the pregame show with Kelly Moore saying I think I would like to see it, and I think we will see it. But right now the Jets don't have they don't have a ton of chemistry within the top six outside of Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor, because those guys have played together. I mean, last year they were outstanding together. So, anyways, I just think that they need and both Adam Lowry said it, so did Rick Bowness after the game to Jeff Hamilton in Washington. I mean, the break could not come at a better time for the Winnipeg Jets. They need a 3-day break, and then they're going to need to get sharp. They're going to need to be sharp coming out of the break, which is exactly what Adam Lowry is talking about. They've got 34 games in the books. That means they got 48 to play. In the second half of the season, outside of the bye week and the All-Star break, Sean, what we know, it is almost a game every other night. Starting in January, game every other night. So guess what? For those folks that are saying the Jets are playing too much, if the Jets want to go where they want to go, Sean, they're going to need to play every other night, basically for 2 months straight after the regular season. So in order to get you ready for that kind of a pace, they're going to be playing every other night from basically the middle, start of February 11th until April 12th, right? I mean, so they're going to have to get sharp. They're going to have to get rested. They're going to have to reset. And then they're going to have to find a way. And, you're right. I mean, their only goal happened with the fourth line, right? So, but what I mean is they aren't getting those contributions that we were seeing earlier on when Michael Asimont came up and, provided a spark on that line. Or, when Jansen Harkins jumps up and got a goal with, while playing up in the lineup. But anyways, I think we should, let's go to Scheifele, but we also got to dig into the defense a little bit also. But let's
so let's we got
to go to Scheifele and okay, sorry.
No, let's go back to Scheifele, because a lot of people want to talk to this. I want to make sure we get to this. Julie Sue asks about the Pionk problem, please. This is going on. I know Top Line Media is very invested in this topic as well. Reading the tweets. I'll say this. We go back to this because there's some people who suggest that the media has been hiding this thing. I remember after that first year he came here where everyone was saying, wow, we stole that deal again. We got the better player than Jacob Trouba out of this deal. He had that first great year. Ken, you were the first one to come out and really start talking about Neil Pionk falling off in that year and notice something that I think everyone else had just assumed, that Neil Pionk had come along and had arrived and was gone, beyond where Jacob Trouba could have gone, which was what a lot of people were talking about. I'm interested in what you're seeing from him down the stretch here, because I will say this. I think that there's a connection between Pionk and Heinola. I think the people who see Heinola and want more from him in the lineup, I think there's an acknowledgement that with Josh Morrissey not being the biggest defenseman, Pionk not being the biggest defenseman, and Heinola not being the biggest defenseman, that one of the things that's holding Heinola back is the fact that 1/3 of their defense defense core already is not the largest variety or size, and are the kind of guys who probably bring, although I think Josh Morrissey, I'll stack him up against anyone defensively. I don't think he needs the size to do it. His positioning is so good. But I think that it's one of the reasons why Neil Pionk, A, his play, but B, that kind of standing in the way of Ville Heinola is one of the reasons he's coming to the forefront. So where do you think he's at right now?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit after the game against the Bruins. I mean, I didn't think that the pairing of Sandberg and Pionk had a lot of success, which is why you saw Brendan Dillon back with Neil Pionk tonight against the Capitals. I thought actually Kyle Capobianco stepped into the lineup, did a fine job once again, playing with Ville Heinola. But, last night, Heinola played more. And I think, he was in the 14-minute range today. He was only in the 11-minute range. And Sean, in a game where the Jets needed offense, you would have thought if Heinola was playing well, he would have played more, right? So I didn't really particularly see any blame for Ville Heinola in this game, but I also didn't see him pop and doing the things that would have a coach toss him over the boards a little bit more often. In terms of Pionk, not trying to avoid the question. Pionk tonight, Sean, let's see, 23-34, 3 blocks, 5 hits, 2 shots, but on the goal, on the ice for four goals against. So, I understand some folks don't like the -4, the plus-minus stat, and a lot of times plus-minus is not, a full picture of the problem. But, if a team gives up 4 even-strength goals and you're on the ice for 3 of them, you probably had something to do with at least several of them. So, Neil Pionk's a competitor. He, when he was at his best, he was playing like a pit bull, kind of had that junkyard dog mentality. I think, he had 5 hits tonight. Obviously, he was playing hard. When he was at his best, he got under the skin of guys like Connor McDavid, right? I mean, he was out there against McDavid a lot in that series. During the regular season in the North Division, those two guys battled a ton. But I don't see Neil playing at that level that he played in his first year with the Jets. And I honestly think, when a guy signs a big ticket contract like Neil Pionk is on, it's natural for a player to try to do too much. And then we've talked so much about what happened last December, where he was given a suspension for sticking out the leg on Rasmus Sandin. He also took a knee to the head from Jason Spezza. Then we know he played most of the second half of the year with a broken foot. So, yeah, that's a factor. But it's also not a factor in terms of the decision making. I thought he got a little bit tentative at times. In the last little bit, I don't think he's not on top of his game. And I mean, that's not to say that he can't get it back. It was natural for there to be some regression after his great first year. But the issue for the Jets that they're having is that they haven't had a lot of time when both Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk were playing very well at the same time. Right, Sean? I mean, that's... If you have those guys on separate pairings and they can give you not only offense but two-way play, then it makes a big difference. But when you're paying a guy almost $6 million, you expect a certain level of performance, and right now Neil Pionk is not playing at that level. I don't think it's from a lack of effort. I see him trying hard every single game. There's been a theory that maybe he's banged up again this year, and I think that I'm okay with that theory because there have been times when I have noticed his skating, especially backward, has not been at the same level, and that would suggest there could be an injury there. But if a player's on the ice, you need to be playing at a high level. And to me, it's not as simple as, and this isn't what you're saying, but I mean, so the folks that want Ville Heinola to get the same leash that Neil Pionk has had, unless he's showing that he is going to produce, I mean, Neil Pionk has already had a certain level that he's been at. Right now, he's not at that level. So could I see Heinola getting some time? I mean, sure. And for those wondering, I mean, with Cole Perfetti out, and we'll get to that in a second, Neil Pionk was on the power play at the top, and then Josh Morrissey was in the one-timer position. Could you see Ville Heinola in that kind of a role? Maybe, sure. But doesn't just happen automatically, but the Jets need Neil Pionk to settle into a groove. I think the 3-day break will be good for him as well, to be able to maybe have his own personal reset. And if he is banged up, maybe he's got a little bit of time to get back closer to full health, because the Jets need Neil Pionk down the stretch. He's going to be a 20-plus minute a game player. He's not going to spend a lot of time. Even when they had Brendan Dillon with Heinola, Neil Pionk's not on the third pairing. He's been put in a position where he's going to be in the top four unless his play drops to a level where the Jets have no choice to put him on the third pairing, and I don't see that happening. This season, but Pionk needs to play better. Quite frankly, there's no way around that. I think he's had some nice stretches, but I don't think he's playing at his peak or optimal level right now. And the Jets need him to perform better if they want to stay in this race down the stretch for first place in both the division and the conference.
So I'll say this, what you see from Josh Morrissey right now when he's like super actively engaged, a smaller defenseman. And like, again, I kind of don't like this narrative. I don't see Josh Morrissey as a small defenseman. Like, I know that people take a look at, the stats and all this kind of stuff. I don't remember seeing, point out when I'm wrong. I don't remember seeing Josh Morrissey getting muscled off the puck very often. I think the only game it stood out to me where he actually had a forward who kind of consistently seemed to get the better of him was that game where Columbus came rolling in here, and Patrick Laine, with his big 6'5" body and reach and good hands, like, was intent on going and disrupting and did a good job of it. Other than that, nothing this year stands out to me against any team that he's played against. But if you are a player who is smaller in stature, that's what you need to look like in the Rick Bowness system, right? Like, Dylan Sandberg is a bigger guy. Brendan Dillon is a bigger guy. I wouldn't say Nate Schmidt's a bigger guy. Logan Stanley is. I think the two players defensively who have taken best to Rick Bowness's new system are Brendan Dillon and Josh Morrissey. And Brendan Dillon is that guy who just, like, he's got great positioning. He's got a good stick. He's stopping players at their own blue line, and then he's stopping them from getting into the Jets' blue line. I think he's doing a real good job with the aggressiveness, but his aggressiveness is like a viper strike, right? Like, you come towards him, you get too close, and boom, he just lashes out and he's on you. He's turned the puck over. It's going the other way, right? Josh Morrissey's looks different. Josh Morrissey's aggression is that he gets ahead of speed and he's going forward with full speed. It's not one or two strides to pop you and hold you. It's to beat you to the puck, and then suddenly you're going the other way. At the beginning of the year, Neil Pionk looked like that. And he hasn't looked like that for a long time now. And that's, I think, what he's got to get back to. If you think about what he did when he scored that overtime winner against the Colorado Avalanche earlier on, and then I don't know if it was the same game, but it was another game around there where he had set up Josh Morrissey on a play where the puck came up top, and it was that same deal, exactly what I'm talking about. He stole the puck, got going, and the defending team was in the wrong position because all of a sudden the puck's going one way and you've got it with speed going the other way. And then Josh Morrissey jumped down and the Jets had four guys right down by the net. It was a pass across and it was a tapping goal for Josh Morrissey. I think it was Morrissey's first goal of the year, if I'm remembering this correctly. But that's what it needs to look like for Neil Pionk to be succeeding in the Rick Bowness system. It hasn't looked like that very often. So those guys need to use their speed to snuff out plays before it gets there, because I think, unlike Josh, I still think he's very good when it comes to like defending the puck, with positioning, but he's not as good as Josh Morrissey. And there is times, and people have pointed out here, and we're seeing it happen, where he gets out muscled, where he loses the puck, where he loses those board battles. And that's the deal, is he has to be a player who more often than not strikes with speed and gets going the other way so that he doesn't have to get down in his zone and defend. This could all have a lot to do with the fact that, we've talked about this. The Jets are getting tired. I talked about it. I don't like using the excuse, but there's no doubt about it. This is a grind of a schedule, and the Jets are in the middle of the grind, so they may not be as fast a team as they usually were. So if you're a player whose success is going to come in this system off being fast, and you're getting ground down and you're getting slower, you're going to be the kind of player who I think gets exposed at this time. And I'm in full agreement with people. Neil Pionk is not the same defenseman as he was at the beginning of the year. He's getting ground down. I think people who are bringing that up are onto something. What's the solution? I think one of the reasons why it's hard to solve this problem, we've talked about this before, is Neil Pionk is one of the true right-handed defensemen on a team that is stocked full of left-handers. So if you want to know why he's getting a little bit of a free rein, it's because he's one of their right-handed defensemen that they need in that spot, right? So if there was a bunch of competition on the right side and he was playing like this, and there was, 3 or 4 or 5 right-handers in the mix for playing these spots, I think you'd see a different situation here. This is the balance of how this Winnipeg Jets team is put together. And I don't think they want to have a full right side full of left-handed defenders. I think you need to keep your right-hander engaged. That's what Neil Pionk is. It gives him an advantage now compared to everyone else. I think that's why you're seeing some of the decisions that are being made in this situation. All right, let's get to Scheif.
Yeah, right here. So Tracy Ukrainiak with her point here. Scheif is frustrated as all heck. He's not getting any calls, and that crappy icing just took the cake. I think the refs are trying to send a message to him: stop beaking the refs. Couldn't agree more.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what level you're playing. Mark made a mistake though. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost. He was not wrong about the call. The call was incorrect. He was in the lead position. When it came to the race with Trevor Van Riemsdyk, I thought he was in. He got himself on inside position before he got to the dot, which is where it's supposed to be. Which is where he needed to be at that time. But it doesn't matter what level you are playing at. It doesn't matter how angry you are, and you understand the anger, as I mentioned. Mark has reason to be upset, no doubt about that. But you can't shoot the puck in that situation. Almost any player in that situation was going to get a penalty. And of course it was accidental and it was not meant to be at the referee, but it was at the referee. I mean, that's going to be called every single time. The only way it's not called is if you have a long history of, I don't want to use the word sucking up to the referee, but Mark's reputation is the opposite of someone who has goodwill with the officials. The fact that Kelly Sutherland looked up and saw it was 55 who shot the puck, that it was in his general direction, even though obviously it was not at him, that was an automatic call. I mean, that call's getting made all the time. Jets fans won't like it. The Jets won't like it. Scheifele won't like it. But that's an obvious call. I mean, it had to be made. I mean, the call is wrong, but even if the call is wrong, show me where it says it's okay to shoot the puck. Even if you'd shot it into the boards, then he may have got a stern warning or whatever. But if a puck is shot in the general direction of an official, it's going to be called every single time. And if it was Alex Ovechkin shooting the puck in disappointment and frustration, Jets fans would be up in arms how it wouldn't have been called, right? I mean, that call has to be made.
Yeah.
That call has to be made.
This is one of these things. So I was talking with Owen, who is on our show.
Yes.
And we were chatting back and forth, and his suggestion was that the ref should have swallowed his embarrassment. And
ref didn't make the call. The linesman made it.
But that was my point.
Sorry.
I said, let me get this straight. You are saying the linesman botched the call, which he did. Okay, the linesman botched the call. You're saying it. I'm saying it. Everyone knows it. The lineman botched the call, and then Mark Scheifele shoots the puck at the ref. Whether it was on purpose or not, it's one of these things. Like it's a zero tolerance thing. You can't mess with the refs, right? That's just how it goes, right? Everybody knows that. So the ref is supposed to excuse something that is a no-go zone because the linesman messed up his call. He's got his calls to make. The linesman has his calls to make. You don't say, like, you don't turn around and get frustrated and punch the ref in the face because the linesman made a bad call and the ref says, yeah, okay, sorry, we messed that up. I'll let that one slide. It's just not how it goes. It's kind of the same thing as like when you're. I know Mark's frustrated, but it's when people take retaliation penalties, they're taking retaliation penalties because they get frustrated. And it's a known thing in hockey that if you can get away with the first one, but the person who retaliates almost never gets away with it. The reason that is because the first thing happens and the ref probably wasn't watching and just is catching the end of it and it isn't sure what he saw, but because he's looking there and you retaliate, well, you definitely saw that one. That's why that guy gets it. It's not because they're playing favoritisms. It's just the way that it goes. Well, the ref is probably sitting back and thinking the linesman may have saw something that I didn't see. I don't know, but I sure as heck saw that player shoot the puck in my direction here, and you don't do that, period. So the answer to this is simple. People can get as frustrated as they want to, and I get when you're cheering for a team and things don't go your way, that it's frustrating, but you don't shoot the puck you don't shoot the puck in the direction of the referee and get away with it. You don't. So there's a simple answer to this question. what should have happened in this situation. It's that Mark shouldn't have shot the puck, period. Now, it's easy for me to say that. I'm not frustrated. I think we should get a little bit into the frustration. And that has to do with the fact, Ken, that Mark Scheifele is an extremely creative player out there. And when you put him with other creative players, he's magic. And to the point everyone's making and the point everyone's talking about wanting to go get trades done right now, I understand that, because Mark Scheifele clearly tonight, there were times he turned with the puck and was like, yep, this is where that guy cuts here, and I throw the puck right on his stick. And the guy wasn't cutting in that direction, because let's be honest, outside of Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor, I'm not sure that there are many players left in the lineup right now that have the kind of creativity that Mark Scheifele knows how to turn into magic. And that's frustrating when you've been Mark Scheifele and you've had that with the Winnipeg Jets pretty much your entire career. So he's in a little bit of no man's land right now. I can't really think of a time that the Jets have lost as many players that would be playing along with him. So to your point, maybe you're right. Maybe what needed to happen was Rick Bowness needed to move Mark Scheifele up to that line earlier to stem the frustration that was building, because probably by the time he gets onto that line in the third, it's a little bit too late. Don't you think that he's already kind of boiled over and frustrated and not in the best headspace to succeed? Maybe moving him earlier cuts that off, and you get three creative players out there trying to work together, and you at least keep that one player engaged in a positive mindset and going in the right direction.
Yeah, no doubt. And, MBHA ball hockey says at least 55 is showing emotion, but you can't take penalties like that. I mean, no, it's okay. No, it's all good. I knew what he said. I had read it. Yeah. I mean, yes, you would much rather have a player show emotion, but that's not a penalty that you can take. I mean, no matter how frustrated you are, you go to the bench, you know, Mark doesn't swear, but you say whatever words you would say on your way to the bench. But that's one of those things where you got to turn the other cheek. And, you know, I understand. And Mark's a perfectionist, right? So he wants the officials to be perfect. The official missed the call, no doubt about that. But you can't, like, that's a no-no. Shooting the puck in the direction of and everybody, and Mark knows it. And, he knew at the time, he was just in such stunned disbelief that the call was missed that he kind of just reacted, I think, naturally. I don't think I don't think for 1 second he was shooting it in the direction of the official. But I mean, that's just something where you got to kind of, take a deep breath, go to the bench, and, hope the next shift goes a little bit better. But anyways, Mark's had a great year, but there's no doubt he's feeling frustrated right now. And again, just so that I don't want people to say I'm looking at this with the benefit of hindsight, I personally would start Scheifele, Dubois, and Connor in that game on December 27th, because I don't think Cole Perfetti is going to be back, and we'll get into that right now. Cole Perfetti had a huge collision with Jake DeBrusk where he took the puck to the net. DeBrusk stood him up. Cole moved his left shoulder after trying to stretch it out, and it didn't look good. I mean, the one thing I would say was it was similar to the Alexiak hit, except Cole didn't. I don't think Cole really even tried to move, like, to show range of motion after that hit. He just went straight off the ice. So the severity, we don't know. Rick Bowness just said he was unavailable. So how long he's going to be out, we have no idea. Cole's been hit hard a lot this year. The Jets will hope that it's not another long-term injury. If it is, then, well, that's a big blow. I mean, you've talked about it, Sean. I mean, he's among the rookie leaders in points. He is playing an important role in the top six, and that would be another big blow to a lineup that is missing some significant players on their roster. We don't expect, even though Nikolai Ehlers skated the other day in Boston and so did Saku Venäläinen, I don't see either one of those guys being an option until probably mid-January at the earliest, but, we could always be wrong. But I would load up that line. I understand it's a risk, but, play Adam Lowry against Kaprizov. You play Scheifele's line against whoever you want to play them against and see what happens. But, we'll see what happens from there. But I think it's much like the players, Sean, we're ready for the break. And we thank everybody for joining us and taking the time throughout these first 34 games. It's been a lot of fun. It's been super interesting. And, here's the best news. The most important and the most fun part of the season is still quite a ways down the way, but this has been an interesting ride, and we can't wait. We're wishing you and your families all the best during this holiday season here.
Yeah, no doubt. Good words there, Kenny. Before we do shut this down, I just want to say it will be nice to get out of the holiday pajamas that I've been rocking for the last little while here and get back into one of those sweet suits that Frankie has set me up with from Vittorio Rossi. Looking forward to it. I'm gonna listen. Let's just do this right now on the 27th. Don't wear your reddish suit that you wore that one time and we showed up looking like
you wear it, buddy. You wear it
to the ball. I'm gonna wear that so that I can debut that on the Kenny and Renny show, because it's a beauty, and Frank knows how to make you look good, and that's exactly the case. And if you want that, head on down to Corden Avenue. Go see Frankie and the boys at Vittorio Rossi. They will do you up right. What a good, hey, treat yourself. If you want a good Christmas present, the gift of looking phenomenal, go see Frankie and the boys at Vittorio Rossi. And time to hand out.
And tell them Kenny and Renny sent you, buddy.
Tell them Kenny and Renny sent you. There you go. And the time to hand out the Dig Deeper Award from Home Field. Hootman had this, or sorry, John Rayo had this to say. It's true, Renny. I love seeing this emotion in 55 compared to last year. Just a bit wrong tonight. Go 55. I'm okay with this because I do think that part of, what happened last year with the Jets is it was tough for him to access the emotion that he's accessing this year. Now, we've seen a frustrated Mark Scheifele at a number of times this season. And I think what we're seeing, to John Rayo's point here, is that he cares, and he cares a lot about this team. And so he's in a situation now where later in his career, it feels like he's trying to figure out how to balance that emotion when it gets into a situation where he gets frustrated. Why is he frustrated? Because he wants this. You know what I love? I love a player on a team that is right smack dab in the middle of a race for first place and things aren't going well. And, all they've done is lost, as bad as it gets is they've lost 2 games in a row, and they lose 2 games in a row and it's right before Christmas. And he's so keyed up that he's frustrated and something like this happens. I'm not saying it's good. We already said he needs to be able to handle this situation, but John Rayo is right. The fact that he is taking his emotions too far a couple times this year is probably a lot better than him not taking it far enough in the previous year, and finding a way to balance that is going to put him in a good position, I think, down the stretch to really be an impact, like a playmaker on this team. And I will say this, I went out and I said in the last game, I do think that this team's MVP is Josh Morrissey. I still think that. Going into the playoffs, I don't think there is a more dangerous player on the Winnipeg Jets lineup that if he gets going can take the Jets far than Mark Scheifele. I still do think that when every player is at their best, Mark Scheifele offensively is the best Winnipeg Jet player out there. So to get him going and manage his emotions, that's a great comment by John Rayo, who dug deeper in this show and wins our Home Field Dig Deeper Award. And of course, he wins the Home Field / Kenny and Renny trunk shovel. I guess I'll start calling it a shortened shovel to dig you deeper out of a tough spot you get yourself in. We all need that here in Winnipeg. Great job. Congratulations. Ken, anything you want to say before we go? I think you wrapped it up, a bow on it pretty nice there.
Yeah, Home Field for marketing it more. www.homefield.ca.
Okay, and I got to say, we're going to see you on the 27th, so we don't need to do any end-of-year wrap-ups, but boy, oh boy, I feel all warm and fuzzy when I get to spend time with the chat room and my man Kenny here, and that's how you should feel come the holiday season, a good time to take stock of what you appreciate, and one thing I appreciate is my partnership with Ken. That's going on our 3rd season of this. I have so much fun doing this. One of the reasons I do and feel warm and fuzzy is because of all the people in the chat room trying to light me up every single time. Love it. Absolutely love it. Appreciate everyone who comes in and gives us the time of day and chats hockey with us. It means the world. And I'll say this at the end of the show, like I always do, if you appreciate the conversations that are happening in this space, please appreciate the sponsors around Winnipeg who are making sure that these conversations keep going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, TransCanada Brewing, the Johnston Group, Lou Ferlin, and Home Field. Thank you so much to them. Thank you to you, everybody, for tuning in. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you get what you asked Santa for. We will see you on the 27th. A big, huge game between the Winnipeg Jets and the Minnesota Wild. Bye, everybody.